The goal of individuation, Carl Jung insisted, is wholeness, not perfection. This single distinction, once genuinely understood, changes how you might relate to your own relentless self-improvement, your own harsh self-criticism, your own persistent sense that you're still not quite good enough despite considerable genuine effort. Jung believed most people confuse these two goals entirely, spending years chasing an ideal that was never actually achievable, while missing something considerably more valuable and considerably more available sitting right in front of them. Jung was direct and specific about perfection's actual nature. He wrote that nothing comes from perfection, using an old alchemical phrase to make this exact point, since perfection, once genuinely achieved, represents a final, completed state with nowhere further to go. Hopelessly sterile precisely because it admits no possibility of continued growth or development. The imperfect, by contrast, carries within it the actual seeds of its own improvement, meaning the very flaws and incompleteness a perfectionist works so hard to eliminate are, according to Jung's understanding, the genuine source of all continued growth, not simply an embarrassing problem to be permanently solved. This explains why genuine perfectionism so often produces exactly the opposite of what it aims for, a person perpetually stuck, endlessly refining and rewriting and reconsidering, never quite finished, never quite satisfied, precisely because true perfection was never actually a real, achievable destination to begin with. Jung compared this to the ancient alchemical dream of transforming lead into literal gold, a genuinely compelling theoretical possibility that never once, in actual practice, produced a real result, and he suggested that a genuinely honest, clear-eyed person eventually must lower this impossible ambition slightly, settling instead for the considerably more genuinely achievable goal of approximate completeness, rather than continuing to chase an ideal that simply does not exist in actual lived reality. Here is what makes wholeness genuinely different from perfection, and why Jung considered it the actual, correct goal worth pursuing instead. Wholeness requires including your genuine flaws, your actual limitations, your real, disowned shadow material, integrating them consciously into a complete, honest picture of who you actually are, rather than eliminating them entirely in pursuit of an idealized, flawless image that was never actually a real, complete human being to begin with. A person pursuing genuine wholeness accepts their actual anger, their actual insecurity, their actual imperfection, weaving these genuine qualities into a fuller, more complete personality, rather than continuing to hide or eliminate them in favor of an artificial, incomplete persona built entirely around appearing flawless. This distinction matters enormously for anyone caught in a genuine cycle of perfectionism and self-criticism. Jung's understanding suggests the actual problem was never simply insufficient effort or insufficient standards. It was pursuing the wrong goal entirely, an impossible sterile perfection, rather than an achievable generative wholeness. This reframes chronic self-criticism not as helpful, high standards worth maintaining, but as a genuine misunderstanding of what actual psychological health and actual growth require. There is a further genuinely useful piece of Jung's understanding worth naming directly, connected to his broader work on opposing psychological forces. He believed that procrastination and perfectionism, often experienced as pure obstacles working against each other, can actually be understood as two complementary forces, each carrying genuine valuable information. Perfectionism reflects a genuine drive toward discipline, mastery, and real craft. Procrastination often reflects something considerably more useful than simple laziness, a genuine, unconscious resistance to premature completion, sometimes correctly sensing that an idea or a project genuinely needs more time to incubate before it can actually be finished well. Jung's understanding suggests the actual goal is not eliminating either force entirely, but finding a genuine healthy rhythm between them, incubation, action, refinement, and completion, working together rather than locked in permanent opposition. Here is what actually helps in shifting from perfectionism toward genuine wholeness directly. It helps to notice, honestly, when your own pursuit of improvement has crossed from genuine refinement into an endless, self-defeating cycle that never actually reaches completion, since this specific crossing point often marks exactly where perfectionism has replaced a genuinely achievable goal with an impossible one. It also helps to practice, deliberately, actually including your genuine flaws and limitations in how you present yourself in your work, rather than continuing to hide them behind an artificially polished, incomplete image, since this practice is precisely what building genuine wholeness rather than chasing sterile perfection actually requires. There is a second thing worth practicing directly. When you notice genuine procrastination arising around a specific piece of work, it helps to ask honestly whether this resistance might actually be legitimate incubation, a genuine unconscious signal that the work needs more time rather than simply avoidance to be forced through by sheer willpower alone. Learning to distinguish between these two very different signals is itself a genuine skill worth developing patiently over time. If you recognize a persistent, exhausting pattern of chasing an impossible, flawless standard in your own life, hear this clearly. This was never evidence that your standards were simply too high in some admirable sense. According to Jung's understanding, it was evidence of pursuing the wrong goal entirely, an impossible, sterile perfection, when the actual, achievable, and considerably more valuable goal was always genuine wholeness, a complete, honest picture of yourself that includes rather than eliminates your real, actual flaws. Think honestly about the specific area of your life where perfectionism has kept you most persistently stuck, and consider what it might actually look like to pursue genuine completeness there instead, including your real limitations rather than continuing to hide or eliminate them entirely. Right below the single word for the flaw or limitation you had been working hardest to eliminate rather than genuinely accept as part of a complete whole picture of yourself. Naming it honestly is the real and practical first step toward the kind of genuine wholeness Jung believed was always the actual achievable goal, rather than the sterile, impossible perfection so many people spend their entire lives chasing instead. Because chasing perfection was never, according to Carl Jung's understanding, a genuinely worthy or achievable standard to hold yourself to. It was a sterile, impossible goal that keeps a person permanently stuck, and genuine wholeness, including, rather than eliminating your real flaws, was always the actual, considerably more valuable destination waiting instead.